The season had come to a close, and with its end, every team across the league began scrambling to rebuild and reinforce. Trade windows opened, negotiations buzzed behind closed doors, and franchises competed in silence to sign the best players. Available, it was a time of movement and uncertainty. Even the Ocean team, now freshly thrust into the spotlight after acquiring Kang Gunwoo, wasn't spared from the chaos. One of the first blows came suddenly. Jung Yuri's favorite player, someone she had supported for years, left Ocean and transferred to another team. To fans, it was a strategic trade, but to YURI, it felt personal. It was a betrayal, a crack in the dream she had believed in since childhood. She sank into quiet sadness, her voice less cheerful, her smiles more forced. The passion that once lit her eyes dimmed slightly. Kang Gunwoo saw it all and felt the weight of it, but there was little he could do, at least for now. More concerning were the incoming players. Kang Gunwoo watched the draft and recruitment results carefully, and what he saw did little to inspire confidence. Many of the new recruits had reputations that raised red flags: disciplinary problems, questionable attitudes, and poor work ethics. It didn't take much analysis to realize that this team, on paper, was a mess waiting to happen. The next morning, Kang Gunwoo prepared to leave for OC spring training facility. At the airport, he stood alongside Jung Yuri, the two of them quiet in their farewell. She smiled for his sake, but he could sense the heaviness in her heart. Their paths were separating again, even if only briefly. As he boarded his flight, a sense of unease lingered inside him, not just because of the team, but because of what he was walking into. Upon arrival, there was no time to waste. The training facility buzzed with energy. Coaches, staff, and players moved around the grounds, each in their own world. Kang Gunwoo reported in, changed into his training gear, and joined the field. He was quickly introduced to the training group, and soon, the batting drills began. But trouble came fast. When Kang Gunwoo stepped up to hit, his technique caught the attention of Coach Jang Byun. Instead of recognizing the power and precision behind his swing, the coach scowled. He interrupted the session, pulled Kang Gunwoo aside, and criticized his form harshly. He demanded to know where Kang Gunwoo had learned to swing like that, and announced, in front of the others, that he would retrain him from the ground up. It was humiliating. The swing that had earned Kang Gunwoo titles and trophies was now being treated like a rookie's mistake. But before the situation could escalate, the head coach stepped in. He had been watching from the sidelines. With a calm but firm tone, he spoke to Coach Jang Byunggu, guiding him away from further conflict and reminding him of Kang Gunwoo's undeniable talent. That was only the beginning. As the day continued, Kang Gunwoo got a closer look at his teammates, and the reality was worse than expected. There was Bae Youngun, a player notorious for drinking and partying, barely holding himself together. The pitcher, who shared similar habits, showed no discipline or focus. Then there was Jang Gui-yoon, who seemed to appear only when he felt like it, often skipping practice entirely. Attendance was a joke. Punctuality was rare. The only glimmer of hope came in the form of Dagon, the team's first baseman. He was physically imposing, clearly skilled, and had the potential to be a key player. But Daegun's extreme shyness held him back, making him quiet, hesitant, and inconsistent under pressure. By the end of the session, Kang Gunwoo was exhausted, not from the drills, but from what he had witnessed. The team wasn't just broken, it was barely functioning. Later that night, as he lay in his room, his phone buzzed. It was Jung Yuri. She was worried. She asked how things were going, how the training had started, how the players were treating him. Kang Gunwoo, not wanting to worry her further, lied. He said things were fine. He told her the team looked promising, but Jang Yuri wasn't fooled. She had already seen the news reports spreading across media about Jang Gui-yoon being spotted driving under the influence. She had read the rumors about disorganization within OCEAN's camp. Her voice carried frustration and sadness. It confirmed what Kang Gunwoo feared. The world was already watching this team unravel. The next morning, things didn't improve. Once again, practice started. And once again, several players were missing. But there was one change. During drills, a coach quietly observed Kang Gunwoo. Something about the way he moved, the sharpness in his decisions, the instinctive way he read the game had caught the coach's attention. Wanting to see more, he devised a test. He instructed the hitters to aim toward Zone 3 of the field and told Kang Gunwoo to take position there as the fielder. It was a high-pressure exercise: hits, random trajectories, minimal time to react, and Kang Gunwoo didn't miss a single one, ball after ball. He read the angles, adjusted his stance, and made the catch. With elegance and precision, he turned a chaotic drill into a personal showcase of genius. The coach watched, impressed, unable to hide his admiration. This wasn't just talented, it was something rarer, something instinctive, something extraordinary. Kang Gunwoo wasn't just the best player on the team. He might be the only reason this team still had hope. The morning air on the training field was tense, heavy with expectation. Yet beneath that surface, there was movement, energy, quietly building. One of the assistant coaches, who had been observing for days, finally saw something he couldn't ignore. Kang Gunwoo's fluid motion in the field, his speed, his timing, his judgment hit, wasn't just impressive, it was seasoned. Like a veteran who had already stood at the pinnacle of the game. The coach, intrigued, wanted to push him further. He called out instructions to the hitters, telling them to switch strategies, no more standard drills. Now they were to use advanced techniques, hitting with difficult angles, curves, and spin meant to fool the outfield. The idea was to make it nearly impossible for anyone to catch them cleanly. Kang Gunwoo stood in position, without hesitation, as the balls came flying, curved and unpredictable. He moved with seamless grace. His eyes read the trajectory before the bat even made contact. His feet adjusted instinctively. He sprinted, leaped, slid, and dove, making impossible catches look effortless. Each movement, each decision, it all spoke of a player who had lived this moment 1,000 times before. And then someone familiar stepped onto the field. No, Kyungwoo. He was a name from Kang Gunwoo's past, a memory from a different timeline. In that other life, they had played together on the national team, side by side, shared victories, shared pain. And now, here they were again. But this time, No Kyungwoo wasn't just a teammate. He was a rival. They were both assigned to shortstop. The competition was immediate. Neither was willing to yield the position, and it quickly escalated into a professional tug-of-war, silent, but full of intensity. They moved with sharpness during drills, trying to outperform one another, their bodies speaking a language of subtle defiance. Each throw was faster, each dive cleaner, each pivot tighter. Eventually, Kang Gunwoo decided to speak with No Kyungwoo. His intention wasn't to belittle, but to explain. He tried to reason, to offer clarity on why No Kyungwoo should consider letting the position go. But the response was not what he expected. No, Kyungwoo didn't see it as advice. He saw it as challenge. He looked at Kang Gunwoo with sharp eyes, full of burning energy. To him, this was no longer just about the team. This was about legacy, about pride. He saw Kang Gunwoo, not as a friend, not even as a former comrade, but as a bright, towering wall in front of his own path. Meanwhile, chaos erupted elsewhere. On the field, Go Yunto, a player, whose performance had been questioned from the beginning, was spiraling out of control. He fumbled plays, ignored signals, threw wildly, and moved like someone completely detached from the game. His lack of professionalism was no longer just a problem. It was a liability. The head coach had seen enough. His voice rang out across the training grounds, sharp and full of authority. He shouted for Go Yuntao to leave now. The field fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. The tone of the coach made it clear. This wasn't a warning. It was a dismissal. Go Yuntao was done. What should have been an ordinary day of spring training had now become a live, Bro ADC, AST, disaster. The practice session was being streamed on OCEAN's official social media channels. Thousands of fans were watching in real time, hoping to catch a glimpse of their favorite players, hoping to believe in the future of their team. Instead, they witnessed disarray, poor drills. Internal conflict. A player publicly kicked off the field. Within minutes, the comment sections were flooded. Supporters who had been cautiously optimistic now voiced deep concern. Many expressed disbelief. Some shouted with anger. Others grieved. The truth was now undeniably, from the outside, OCEAN looked like a team falling apart. And for Kang Gun-woo, who stood at the center of it all, the weight of expectation only grew heavier. The atmosphere around the Ocean team shifted drastically. The chaos of the early training days, the unprofessional behavior, the indiscipline had finally pushed the coaching staff to their limit. The head coach, no longer willing to watch the team crumble under its own weight, took control. His words were stern, his tone absolute. He addressed the players directly. There would be no more tolerance for carelessness, no more patience for laziness. From that moment forward, every player was under scrutiny. Those who didn't perform, those who dragged down the team would no longer be considered teammates. They would be treated like cancer within the system. And like cancer, they would be removed. No questions asked. The warning was clear. The threat was real. Suddenly, the once loose atmosphere around the training ground became tight with pressure. Every throw, every swing, every step was now a test. Each player, no matter their seniority or history, was forced to push beyond their limits to justify their position. The proving ground for this ultimatum came in the form of a friendly match. It wasn't a formal league game, but it carried weight. Far beyond its name, it was here the coaches would judge who deserved to stay and who would be cut. The stands were quieter than usual, but the tension in the dugout was louder than ever. When the game began, all eyes turned to Kang Gun-woo. He stepped into the batter's box with calm precision, his grip firm, his stance steady. The opposing pitcher delivered the ball, but Kang Gun-woo had already calculated the angle, the spin, the timing. His swing cracked through the air like lightning. The ball soared over the field in a perfect arc. He wasn't just performing, he was dominating. Time and again, he came to the plate and delivered. His form was sharp, his awareness sharp, and his presence undeniable. Every hit told a story. It wasn't just raw power, it was years of knowledge, years of experience from a life already lived. Though he stood on the field as a young man, his mind carried the weight of another lifetime. The coaches, other players, even the opponents watched in stunned silence. Kang Gun-woo wasn't just playing well, he was playing like someone who had already conquered the game. Meanwhile, the rest of the OCEN squad rotated in and out as the coaching staff tested different combinations. New players were given chances to prove themselves. Established ones were pushed harder. It was a day of revelations. At the break, while the players rested and rehydrated, one of the pitching coaches sat quietly, eyes fixed on Kang Gun-woo. There was a question lingering in his mind, something unspoken but building. Eventually, he approached. His voice was calm, his request simple. Would Kang Gun-woo consider taking the mound? It wasn't a demand. It was an invitation, but for Kang Gun-woo, the question was heavier than it sounded. He had promised himself he wouldn't do it again. He had promised Jang Yuri, in the past, every time he had tried to play both roles, batter and pitcher. His body had paid the price. The strain, the fatigue, the injuries. Each time he had pushed through it. And each time, Yuri had cried. He remembered those nights vividly, her tears, her quiet fear, her gentle pleas. He had sworn to protect her from that pain again. So at first, he refused. He shook his head politely and looked away. But then, another thought settled in. This team, OCEAN, was drowning. The structure was unstable. The talent was scattered. The future was uncertain. No one else could carry them right now. Not on the mound, not with the game on the line. There were too many cracks, and if no one stepped in to patch them, the whole team might collapse. And so, Kang Gun-woo paused. He weighed his promise against the reality, and he chose the team. He nodded. He would pitch. It wasn't out of pride. It wasn't to prove anything. It was because he knew, deep down, that if he didn't act now, there might not be another chance to turn this broken team around. The decision was made. Kang Gunwoo picked up the ball, and as he gripped it tightly, in his hand, a wave of old memories rushed over. In victories, pain, applause, injuries. But through all of it, he stood steady. Because this time, he wasn't doing it for himself. He was doing it for OCEAN. The moment Kang Gunwoo stepped onto the mound, the stadium atmosphere subtly changed. It wasn't a roar of excitement, but a silent tension and unspoken awareness that something important was about to unfold. The coaches had given specific instructions. They didn't want him using high-risk techniques. No breaking balls that strained the elbow. No aggressive deliveries that twisted the shoulder. Instead, they asked him to use a straightforward pitching style, slower, more predictable type of throw. It was safer, easier on the body, the kind that minimized the risk of injury. Even if it made the pitch easier for hitters to read, Kang Gunwoo understood. He knew why they wanted this. He even appreciated it. And yet, as he stood on the mound with the ball in hand, the fire in his chest wouldn't let him hold back. So even though the motion was technically safer, the strength behind each throw was anything but gentle. He delivered fast, precise, and aggressive pitches, the kind that cut through the air with power. Hitters braced themselves but failed to connect. One after another swung and missed. The crack of the ball hitting the catcher's glove echoed across the field like a statement. But then, cracks began to show just not from Gunwoo, the catcher. He wasn't ready. Time and again, he failed to catch the ball cleanly. His timing was off, his hands were slow. Instead of complimenting Kang Gunwoo's dominance, he became a source of frustration. Every dropped ball, every mishandled throw chipped away at the rhythm. Kang Gunwoo felt it. The pressure returned, crawling under his skin. He wasn't angry, he was disheartened. It reminded him of the many times in his past life when everything rested on his shoulders. He had hoped things would be different this time, that this new life would offer better support. But here he was, again strong, prepared, and still standing alone. Yet, outside the field, the view was entirely different. Jang, Yuri and her family were watching from afar, the game being streamed live across national platforms. They sat together, eyes glued to the screen, watching every movement of Kang Gunwoo, and what they saw was brilliance. They didn't see the missteps of the catcher. They saw Gunwoo's strength. They saw his confidence, his dominance, the way he controlled the pace of the game. Their hearts swelled with pride. Yuri, unable to contain her emotions, smiled through the entire broadcast. To her, this was the man she had always believed in, the one who was destined to shine, no matter the situation. Online, fans were saying the same. Comment sections flooded with praise. Viewers, analysts, and even casual watchers agreed. Kang Gunwoo wasn't just performing well, he was the only player in Ocean who looked like a true professional. His presence alone lifted the team's reputation, but back on the mound, a pivotal moment arrived. The catcher, despite his earlier failures, asked for a fastball. It was a dangerous call. The batter at the plate had been clearly waiting for it. His stance, his posture, everything about him screamed anticipation. Gunwoo hesitated. His instincts told him to go another way. But then he remembered something deeper, something personal. This wasn't just about winning. This was about trust. About not letting ego dictate decisions. About giving his teammate Flood or not a chance to work in sync. So he nodded. He threw the fastball, and just as predicted, the hitter connected the bat, met the ball with force, sending it flying, but not far. It came fast, aimed directly toward the mound. Kang Gunwoo's reflexes kicked in. His glove shot up just in time. The ball smacked into his palm, the shock rattling up his arm. Pain surged for a moment, but he stood firm. He had caught it. The inning ended. The game was over. Ocean had won. The dugout buzzed with celebration. But Gunwoo didn't join in. He stood quietly, catching his breath, staring at his glove, the same one that had just saved the game. Elsewhere, in the headquarters of the rival team Meteos, the conversation had shifted. Kang Gunwoo's name was now the most talked about name in the media. His performance had sparked debates, theories, and expectations. The buzz surrounding him had reached even the far corners of the professional baseball world, and among those paying attention was someone watching intently: Park Young-jae. Another genius pitcher, a name already revered in the baseball world, a player known for his devastating speed and surgical precision. The ace of the national team. During his training, his throws reached up to 150 kilometers per hour, a velocity few in the league could match. He had heard of Kang Gun-woo. Now he was curious. He didn't just want to watch him play. He wanted to stand on the same field, face him, test himself. Because now, the path of two prodigies was beginning to converge. The next morning arrived with heavy anticipation. It wasn't just any ordinary game day. Today, the Ocean team would face off against the powerful Meteosa team, known for its cohesion, strategy, and star-studded lineup. The challenge ahead was no secret. Kang Gun-woo's phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Jang Yuri. Her voice, though sweet and familiar, carried a subtle tension. She reminded him gently, almost cautiously, that Meteos wasn't a team to take lightly. Their coordination, their depth, and their discipline had earned them a strong reputation. She asked him to be careful, and though her words were calm, her concern was real. Then, suddenly, her tone changed. She asked him a question, not about baseball, but something far more personal. Did he remember what day it was? Kang Gun-woo froze, his heart skipped, his mind raced, trying to summon any memory that could clue him in. Panic swelled inside him. He feared the worst. Had he forgotten her birthday? Was today some important anniversary? Unable to answer and still searching for an escape, he lied and said a coach was calling for him. He quickly ended the call, heart pounding, as he glanced at the date on his phone. It hit him like a fastball to the chest. February 14th, Valentine's Day. The realization left him stunned. In the middle of his preparations, the practices, the pressure he had forgotten. No chocolates, no gift, no plan. The guilt began to settle as he imagined Jang Yuri sitting at home, hopeful, waiting for something, anything from him. But there was no time to dwell. The game was about to begin. The OCEAN players lined up, tension etched into every face. The early innings were unforgiving. Meteos played with a level of precision and intensity that overwhelmed OCEAN's formation. Without Kang Gun-woo on the field, the defense looked scattered. The scoreboard reflected the pressure. The rhythm was slipping, and the gap was widening. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Kang Gun-woo was called in. He entered the field with silent intensity. His posture, his movements, the way he adjusted his glove, it was all calm, but commanding. The shift in energy was instant. His first few catches were sharp, clean, and timed with flawless accuracy. The defense reorganized itself around him. The momentum began to tilt, and when it was his turn at bat, the stadium held its breath. Kang Gun-woo stepped into the batter's box. His fingers tightened around the bat. He inhaled slowly, recalling the voice of Jang Yuri from their call earlier. Her support, her belief had surged through him. His heart beat louder. He focused. The pitch came. He swung. The sound of the bat connecting with the ball echoed with force. The ball rocketed forward, crashing against the scoreboard with a thunderous bang. It wasn't just a hit, it was a statement, a display of unshakable resolve and power as he jogged the bases. A thought struck him. In the American League, a celebration like this, something too expressive, would have brought retaliation. The infamous headshot, a fastball thrown at the body, in response to arrogance. But this wasn't the American League. This was home. This was for Yuri, and so, without hesitation, he raised both his hands high and formed a heart shape, a simple, genuine love symbol, aimed at the broadcast camera. A message meant for Jang Yuri, who, in that moment, was watching his game from her living room. Or so he thought, at her home. Jang Yuri's tablet stuttered, buffering mid-broadcast. The video froze. The moment passed. She never saw the gesture. The love he had sent never reached her. Elsewhere, someone else noticed. Park Young-jae watched from a distance. He observed the heart gesture, the dramatic swing, the entire scene. He let out a short breath, almost a chuckle. To him, Kang Gunwoo seemed like a strange one. Talented, no doubt. But strange, yet this time, Park Young-jae wasn't watching for amusement. He was watching to prepare. His eyes narrowed. He would no longer take Kang Gunwoo lightly. The time for playfulness was over. The next time they faced each other, he would be ready. He would face Gunwoo, not as a spectator, but as an equal competitor. Back on the field, the game surged forward. Kang Gunwoo's efforts had brought Ocean back into contention. They were no longer floundering. They were fighting. But Meteos was a powerhouse for a reason. With a series of smart plays and relentless coordination, they executed a calculated comeback. The final innings moved fast before Ocean could regain control. Meteos sealed their victory. The game ended. The scoreboard told the truth. Meteos had won. Despite the loss, the narrative had changed. Kang Gunwoo had proven himself again. Against one of the strongest teams in the league, under immense pressure, in the middle of personal confusion, he had stood tall. And the baseball world, now fully aware of his presence, watched with growing interest. A new era had begun.